Hi, here we are with our third essay. The third essay is a little bit of a catch-all situation because we have the sonnets this time, as well as one play, The Tempest, which is one of the most wonderful plays, but it doesn't fit neatly as a history, a comedy, or a tragedy. Choose either the sonnet sequence, and when I say the word sequence, what I mean is the sonnets are individual poems. But if you read them as a string or a sequence of poems, there's actually a bit of a story there, right? Something you can really follow along. Or, of course, The Tempest. Then choose one of the following topics and construct an argumentative essay based on research and your own close reading of the work. Examine the sonnets as a story told in 154 individual poems connected together. What is the meaning of the work as a whole? You may consider several of the themes that run through the sonnet sequence, including love, lust, envy, age, insecurity, time, posterity, and death. The big issues, right? The big issues. Now, I expect you to consider multiple sonnets throughout the sequence and not just focus on one or two. Now, granted, you could argue and look at it like a super in-depth, super close reading of a single sonnet and write a very nice essay. People have done such. But for our assignment, I want a bigger picture view. Read the prefatory material to the sonnets. You should know all about how the sonnets break down into parts. I mean, the sonnet sequence, not just the individual sonnets. Obviously, those do break down into parts too, and you can read about that. But the sequence of sonnets at the beginning that introduce the beautiful young man who the speaker is urging to procreate, basically to keep his genes going because he's such a beautiful person. We need those genes to run through time. Then there's a second sequence of poems in which the speaker talks about his love for the young man. Now, this is a very interesting section, of course, because the homoeroticism that is exhibited, especially in certain poems, there's certain key poems that really kind of delve into the sexuality, have been, how should I put it, somewhat discussed? No, a lot discussed. Of course, there were times, especially like the 19th century, where the sonnets were not looked at because for this very reason it seemed a bit of an improper thing. Then we get the final sequence of poems in which a character called the Dark Lady appears on the scene. She is a sexually alluring, very physically attractive person, but there's a demeaning quality. At least this is what the speaker suggests, that there's a demeaning quality to her love. And I use the word love in a very broad sense. Just look at that. In The Tempest, what justifies power? Okay, so if you read The Tempest, there are it's a wonderful play, and I'm hoping that you've seen it in production, and if not, there is an interesting movie version with Helen Mirren, which kind of alters the gender of the lead character from male to female, but it doesn't substantially change most of the rest of the play. I think that, how should I put it, the jury is out as to how good of a production it is. Some people really like it, and some people are not so crazy about it. I'm sort of in the middle myself. Seen it on stage a number of times too. In The Tempest, what justifies power? Power. Consider the multiple types of power that are present in the play, how power is used for good or evil, and how the play is ultimately condemning or approving of expressions of power. Another way to think of this question is, how Machiavellian is this play? There are a lot of plots and subplots. Everybody's kind of scheming this way and that. I shouldn't say everybody. It's too broad of a term. It's not every character. But a lot of the characters are scheming in this play. For good, for evil, I'll let you decide. The third question is about the character of Caliban. Caliban is a character in The Tempest, a controversial character. It could be played in a variety of ways. A good starting point to this assignment would be read Greenblatt's preface to The Tempest and the different perspectives on how Caliban has been performed over time. Argue how the audience would ultimately see Caliban. This is really, this can tap into, if you will, the European perspective of the New World. I think a lot of contemporary criticism of our time looking at The Tempest, people writing about The Tempest, have seen this as vestiges of colonialism, right? A colonial attitude. The Europeans are bringing civilization to the wild savages kind of thing. Or is Shakespeare subtly anti-colonial in his portrayal here? That could also be what's going on. Just want you to think about it. There's a lot that could be said about Caliban. Trust me, it is a very deep topic. Now, the paper is due to be submitted to Canvas by Monday, November the 15th, end of day. Be sure to use the out-of-class essay guidelines for matters of form and style. Use correct MLA documentation as described in the MLA for Literature class handout and or the MLA handbook. Now, it says 8th edition. We're in the 9th edition. I cannot see any differences between the two, by the way, in terms of form. So I should be updating this, yes, and I will. But you're good. But don't give me 7th. Go give me 6th. Go give me APA. Be sure to include a word count at the end of your essay. Remember, you must meet minimum requirements, including word count, sources, and subject matter. No late essays will be accepted without a verifiable medical or legal excuse. So please do not come to me with excuses like your family decided to surprise you with a vacation to the Caribbean. Right? I'm not going to be very sympathetic to that. Don't tell me that you had problems at work or you had computer problems, you had roommate problems. I do not care. I'm incredibly uncaring. If you have some issues that are legit, let me know about them. That would be medical issues, you had to appear in court, something of that sort, right? Of course, if you want to ask me about your essay before turning it in for a grade, please visit me during my office hours, which are held Monday through Thursday, 10 o'clock to 11. You may wish to contact me ahead of time so I know when to expect you, but it's not required. Although I will say it's generally a good idea. That way I can kind of be ready for you. If that time frame does not work for you, we can see if we can find a mutually agreeable time. Something where maybe we both can work. Now, the minimum requirements are not substantially different from what we've done in the previous two essays. 1,000 to approximately 1,400 words. If you go over 1,400 words, I don't have a problem until I get bored. Right? If you're boring me, if it's just like adding words for no darn good reason, then I'm not going to be happy with you. If I write in my comments, this paper would have been better, 300 words shorter, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. Citations from at least 4 different sources. One of the sources must be the original work. Okay, and by the way, sonnets just count as one original work no matter how many sonnets you reference, okay? 2 sources must be from scholarly works, such as peer-reviewed journals, university press books, maybe a dissertation. The 4th source can be a source of your own choosing, but it must be a credible source in its own right, not a movie. But you can have movies in addition to this, right? If you want to use a movie version of The Tempest with Helen Mirren or an older one, that would be totally fine. But that's in addition to what we have here, okay? That's what I say in this. You may have more than 4 sources, including movies. But all of your sources must be credible, okay? So do not give me whack jobs that you found on a Google search just because they showed up. If they're not really good, I'm not impressed. MLA format, presentation, and documentation, as I've already said. Okay, so this is really a slightly less than 4-week project. We're really kind of catching up, if you will, because we only have 1 week that we're spending on the sonnets, 2 weeks on the Tempest. The discussion threads will ultimately catch up to where we are because I know there's a bit of a lag. I know it's awkward, but there's no way around it. At least not that I have found that works. So, good luck. Hope you like what we got here. Take care.